Hi, everyone. My name is Jada,
My name is April.
and this is the MendHer podcast where we focus on healing the little girl to restore the woman. And we do that through centering Christ and nurturing our body, mind, and soul. So, welcome to episode 4, everyone, where the title is The Art of Navigating Family Dynamics. And in this episode, we really want to focus on how family not only shapes, our identities, but also the things we come to understand when it comes to, what constitutes a healthy family. What does love look like? Our attachment styles. So many different things come from the environments that we grow up in and sometimes may result in a little bit of trauma. But one thing that we do want to establish first is that God does value family, and he does ordain family as something that is, positive and, helping us instill these different values. But God also doesn't want us to confuse family with family of chaos, family of confusion, because God is not of confusion. And so for this episode, we just really want to unpack, what have we learned from our families and how are we healing from that through centering Christ and nurturing our body, minds, and soul. And so with you, I just want to start off by just asking, what are some things that you had experienced in your family that impacted you and it impacted your decisions when it was time for you to create your own family?
Well, first of all, I want to start that I'm not bashing my family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want nobody to feel inadequate because it never came with a manual. Well, it did come with a manual. We just didn't follow the right manual.
Right.
Because the manual is the Bible. But and we have repeated cycles, and that's where generational curses come from, because no one pays attention to what previously happened in other generations and why we do the things that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have always been an introspective person, I've always paid attention to patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So I come from a 2-parent household that ended up in a 1-parent household. And me coming from a 2-parent household, going into a 1-parent household, it made me realize that you could come from a 2-parent household and still feel like you're in a 1-parent household.
Right.
So it never mattered whether you had a 2-parent household or a 1-parent household, especially if the household was not the foundation of God.
Right.
And realizing that my parents came together not on a solid foundation, I end up repeating that same pattern, because the way my mom left the house, I end up leaving the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I was about to create that same pattern for you.
Right.
And I didn't want to do that.
Let's backtrack. So one, what were some things that made you feel like I need to leave this house? I need to leave.
Well, like I explained, I was more attached to my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And when my mom and dad got divorced, I was very angry. And my mom and dad got divorced when I was in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So him leaving the house caused me to act out in anger, and I always felt misunderstood. And my mom never knew how to communicate to me at the level that I needed her to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she purposely did it. She just didn't know how.
Right. Because from her own family dynamic, that's not what
Right.
she was learning.
Right. And because my mom grew up in the era where when a parent says something, you just did what they said. You don't question. You don't ask no questions. You just took what they said and you did what they said.
Right.
I didn't understand that when she would tell me no, and no is just no.
Mm-hmm.
So that made me do a lot of things, because when you tell, I'm a type of person You can't just tell me no. I need to know why. Because I understand from the details.
Right.
And me not having details made me go find out for myself. But I only needed one time.
Right.
You have to give me 2 and 3. I only needed one. So once I found out, oh, that's why. Okay, you ain't got to worry about me doing it no more.
Right.
But I was just that child that needed details. That's how I understand. And because my mama didn't understand, I needed the details. That's what caused me to rebel and go do things and learn things on my own. That's why I became so independent, because I taught myself a lot of things.
Right.
Because I wanted to know why people do the things that they do. I didn't want to be the shelter child. I didn't want to be the child that, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, but you're not telling me why.
Right. And so you going out searching for answers and then getting yourself stuck between a hard and a rock place, and sometimes continuing on those generational traumas that have been passed down onto you. So what was that moment when you realized, like, based on what you observed in your own family, it was something that you recognized, this is a pattern, I see it's coming to me, but I'm not going to continue down this line because I already seen what the end results were from your parents?
Well, to be honest, I didn't recognize that after I had you. And it was some years after I had you. So I don't want to paint the picture as if I'm this perfect person. However, because I recognized patterns, it was easier for me to stop it before it went too far.
Right.
It was after I had you. And once me and your daddy split up, I realized I wanted better. I didn't want to be in a relationship because I'm trauma binding. I didn't want to be in a relationship just because I wanted to have a husband.
Right.
I really wanted that foundation to be from God, but also because we loved each other. I didn't want to create a family dynamic where my child don't know what love is, but only know dysfunction.
Right.
So that's where it stopped.
What do you think are some things that within a family a child needs in order to not be as traumatized as you were, or as I was? Like, what do you think are some things that people really need to value in a family and also look to? Because I feel like definitely consulting with God, I feel like there's a lot in there to help you understand, like, what does family look like? What does love look like? True love look like? Godly love.
And the only way you're going to know what a true family look like is when you read the Bible, because God created family to start with him first. And then the man, which is the husband, and then the wife, and then the children. Is order.
Right.
God has always had order, wanted order, but it was us that created the dysfunction.
Right. By disobeying God.
Yes. Yeah. So we have to get to that place where we want to get back in order. And I wanted my family to be in order.
Right.
I didn't want to create the same dynamic that I had to deal with you. So when it came to the point everybody was saying, oh, you need to just go ahead and get married, you already didn't have a baby, I was like, that's not going to solve the problem.
Right. Especially because y'all wasn't equally yoked. Right. And y'all were both traumatized. So what was that? A marriage, and also I feel like a lot of people think marriage or having a baby should serve as a Band-Aid for healing the wounds that need to be filled. But it's like, that's not what God called marriage to be. Like, God is ordained from God, is blessed by God, and it's when two equally yoked people come together and decide that they're going to serve God, and everything in their house is going to follow God as well.
And I don't want nobody to feel condemned or feel as if I'm bashing, because I don't have no right to bash nobody. But we have to come to a place where we acknowledge what we did was wrong, and we take full accountability for it, because that's the only way we're going to be able to correct our actions. So please don't take this in a negative way. We're just bringing light to the places that need to be brought light, so we can understand why we do what we do, so we could change from it.
Right.
But in that same aspect is if we do it the way that God intended, we wouldn't have all the issues that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized I love your daddy, but at the same time, I knew it wasn't right for us to be together.
Right.
And just because you love someone doesn't mean you have to be with that person.
Right.
I had to realize that the way that we came together wasn't from the foundation of God.
Mm-hmm.
It was us coming off of trauma. We both had mother wounds.
Right.
And because we had mother wounds, that's what brought us together. But does that mean we need to be together? No. And once I realized that it was okay for me to still have love for your dad,
mm-hmm.
not turn you against him.
Right.
Because that was a decision we made, and we know we made you from love. But I wanted to be able to display that love.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we wasn't going to be able to display that love fully because of the trauma we had.
Right.
So that's what made me not go through with it.
And I think that was a good decision. One, because I feel like a lot of people had this idea that 2-parent household is better than one. But
a godly household
is better than, exactly. And I feel like that's what a lot of people should be looking at. Not looking at what a family should look like, but is it following what God says a family should be? You know, and when you have that firm foundation and you have two people that are, you know, following God and also healed and knowing where they are in their healing journey, you're able to not pass on those generational traumas, those generational patterns, those family dynamics, those attitudes, behaviors, all those different things onto your child. Because I feel like we talked about this in like previous episodes. A lot of people feel like people go based off words, but a lot of times people go based off actions. And kids, they know.
It's a learned behavior. Everything, majority of what we do is learned.
Yeah. And kids definitely had that disconnect. Was like, my parent is saying this, but what I'm looking at is not matching. And so something, you're having an internalizing battle in your head, like, this is not what love is. And so when it's your turn to find a partner or consider like marrying somebody or having a kid with somebody, you're reflecting back and thinking to yourself, okay, my parents did this, so maybe this is acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
But when you connect back to Christ and what Christ says is acceptable and what Christ says is what a family should be and what love between a man and a woman should be and how you should parent, you know, all those different things come into alignment when you are aligning with God and what God says. And so I feel like a lot of times that dysfunction comes from people trauma bonding, not having that firm foundation and aligning in their word with what God says things should be in general.
And not knowing your identity, because that's also too part of the problem. We don't know our identity, and we're finding our identity in dysfunction.
Yeah. How did you come to... Oh, I feel like you touched on it a little bit, but how did you come to really recognize like the things that you were going down that road to doing kind of made you reflect like that same thing that my parents did and that didn't give them the same, any good results?
From a little child, I remember I always acted older for my age, but from a little child, I've always been an introspective person, and I paid attention to patterns. And even though I had a lot of families, you know, people married in my family, to me, it didn't display healthy marriages.
Right.
And I was just like, this ain't something I want to deal with just to say that I'm married.
Right.
And that's what made me realize, okay, but what are you going to do about it? Because if you don't acknowledge it, you're about to create the same thing.
Right.
Because I had already started on that road of creating the same pattern. But then I realized, is this what you really want?
Right. And do you think like your journey with Christ, even like to this day, really helped you understand like what a marriage should be? Like how did you reconcile that idea? Like, this is what I learned through like seeing what my parents did, but when I, consulted with God, this is what I've realized, like, this is what it really should be. Like, meaning, like, how did you come to the, like, correcting that pattern that you were seeing in, like, our family so it wouldn't, like, pass on?
Because even though I'm still developing my walk with Christ and my relationship with Christ, I just know that God wants the best for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if he wants the best for me, why am I going to continue to do what's against what he says?
Right.
So that's what made me to stop and take a pause. And even though society has its perspective on what a marriage should be, I have tried the shacking up.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried having a baby out of wedlock. I have tried it. All what society has said that you should do as far as dating and being in a relationship, even getting married, because I didn't been married. But the foundation wasn't there.
Right.
So if I didn't try all that, okay.
I might as well do it the right way.
Hello, because I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm burnt out.
I'm tired of learning the same lesson over and over again. You just said in previous
and I don't
episodes.
like lessons.
Yeah.
So I had to come to the conclusion I was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't blaming nobody else. I ain't blaming nobody I've been in a relationship. I ain't blaming my ex-husband. I'm the problem. Because you keep doing the same thing, looking for a different result.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's definitely true. And I feel like you talked a lot about like the 2-parent household and like how you experience like both sides. I feel like I experienced like more like the single parent household, also blended families, because you were married, and so I did have like step siblings and everything. And like through my lens as a child, coming to understand like the things that you went through and like the people that you were with, just understanding like those weren't people my mama should have been with. But also you being honest, open and honest, when those relationships ended, not blaming a person at all, but just saying, Jada, based on where I'm at in life and where this person at in life, the way we came together wasn't on a firm foundation. I feel like you've always recognized this just wasn't based on a firm foundation.
Right.
You never faulted the person.
Never faulted the person, because any relationship that I have been in, I'm never saying he was a bad person.
Right.
We all had trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Unhealed trauma.
Right. And I feel like your frustration came from the fact that people just didn't realize you was always like, why are they doing the things they doing? And you connecting the dots like why, but people not owning up to why because they haven't done it in the work. I feel like that's the thing that will frustrate you, because again, it's amazing that everybody don't recognize like the different patterns that are repeating on repeat, back to back to back.
And I don't think it's that people don't want to recognize. A lot of people have a problem with telling themselves the truth, but also too, you feel if I tell the truth, I'm making the people that put this on me or hurt me to be the villain. That's not how the way I'm coming off, because I'm taking full responsibility for every decision I made, and it takes two.
Right.
So I'm not blaming people, but I'm calling it for what it is.
Right.
Trauma is trauma. And if that's the way that we got together based off of trauma,
that's what
all we're going to end up in is trauma.
Right. And you can't, and that's the thing, you can't like fix trauma with, a baby, a marriage, of, just skating around the issue, because it's always going to be an issue if you're never addressing it. And if y'all not facing the truth.
And you keep building on trauma. Building, your foundation is constantly building up on trauma, but at the same time, it's sinking.
Yeah.
Because nothing is being resolved.
Right. And if anything, you're re-traumatizing yourself. You're being triggered.
Yes.
You're being triggered. And so it's just making your healing journey a longer process, because you have so many different experiences to unpack. Because
you're adding layers on top of layers.
Exactly. But I feel like through my experience, like being in a single parent household, I feel like I did just grow up with that mindset, like, I guess a 2-parent household is better than one. Just from just like what society tells, you, and, the American dream is to have like a white picket fence, a dog, and 2 parents together and their kids, like that's just, what is the propaganda that's pushed out. But I feel like what I really started my journey with Christ and like reading my Bible and just really understanding that, God really called for like the man to be the head of the household, the woman to, consult with the man, but, be the nurturer, and then, parent the children in the way that, God will want you to raise up the kids. And I feel like through my experience, I began to really shed that idea that like a 2-parent household was better than one, just seeing like, or just hearing from like the dysfunction that was happening in other 2-parent households. Like, oh, it's not all cookies and cream. And also from you sharing your own personal experience, like, and grandma sharing her own personal experience, like from the outside looking in, yeah, everybody thought everything was great. And how you would always share, like, when y'all was in high school, a lot of people thought everything was good in your household because from the outside person looking in, it's like, it's a 2-parent household, 2 incomes, they're good. But then when you really, when you're really in that environment, you're really realizing like, no, I'm just as traumatized as you in that single parent household.
Right.
Maybe worse. Because the things that the propaganda that's been pushed out and my reality is not aligning.
Right. It's not the same.
And so it's making me feel like I was tricked. I was bamboozled. I was hoodwinked.
Right.
Like, what is really going on? And so then you're navigating life thinking, okay, I guess 2 is better than 1 regardless of the dysfunction.
Right.
Because you're more focusing on a number than focusing on what's really going on. Is the foundation firm and set on God? Are 2 people coming together because they truly love God, love themselves, and then love each other? Because if you have a good relationship with God and you have a good relationship with yourself, you're going to do unto others you want to be done to you.
And you're going to love people the way that you love yourself.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't love themselves
at all.
And when you don't love yourself and you don't have a good representation of what godly love looks like, you're bound to traumatize somebody and bound to trigger yourself.
And most people have more transactional relationships than they have based off of love.
Right. Like, what can you do for me?
Yes. And you find a lot of people are staying together because of children, but you're not displaying no type of love and they don't see love.
Right.
And I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, because sometimes I do be thinking to myself, like, what if like your parenting was different? Like, what if we didn't have these open and honest conversations like, Jada, this is what really was going on? And also because I feel like I asked you those questions, but you weren't afraid or ashamed to just be honest and open.
No, because I know how I felt as a child to believe one thing but see something else.
Right.
So I never wanted to pretend with you and fake it and be like, oh, everything is good. I'm just a happy wife and I'm real miserable inside.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like those periods of time were like your roughest times. Meaning, like, because you were in a cycle where you were unhealed, you were with someone else that was unhealed, so they're triggering you, and then when it's time to parent me, it's like it's starting to flow in, affect me in the sense of, okay, if I'm with somebody that we're constantly arguing, we're constantly fighting, and then I have to make sure I take care of my kids, but this person that's we supposed to be partners, I'm not feeling like this is a partnership. I'm feeling like this is very one-sided. I gotta take care of the kids. So all those emotions, all those thoughts, all those the resentment, like all those different things build up, and you take it out on your kids, not meaning to, but it's just like
you in a tug of war, and you trying to make it work, but at the same time, are you really making it work?
Exactly.
You're just putting up with dysfunction, and you're causing your children to find out, oh, this is okay to be dysfunctional,
right?
And it's not.
Exactly. And so I feel like we have talked about, like, regardless, like in the household period, definitely, 2-parent household, because again, God wants the man, the woman, and then the children. What we kind of talked on spiritually, but what do you think else is needed within the household in order to raise up a child to not be as traumatized and to not carry on those generational traumas, like emotionally, physically? Like, what do you think are some other things that maybe you didn't have in your family that you wish, like, if I would have had that, I think some of my decisions would have turned out differently?
Well, I think I would have waited before having you, because I think if I was healed, I would have been emotionally available for you, because I was healed.
Right.
And then I would have done it the proper way of leaving the house. And not just leaving the house because I just wanted to get out the house. I would have properly waited, and then I would have got married and then had you.
Right. Do you think that was like the first opportunity of like realizing, like, because for me, I feel like you leaving the house and grandma leaving the house really is the pattern of like that emotional instability. Meaning, like, when things get tough, you either blow up, you just leave the situation completely and never address it, or like something, a third thing happens that is not healthy. And so I'm just wondering, like, do you think like that is another pattern that you probably recognize, like the way you probably have handled situations with your relationships within your family kind of mirrored that same dynamic?
Yes, because I never had the space to express how the way I feel. That's why I express how the way I feel now. That's why I openly express, because as a child I wasn't able to express. And once I get it out, I'm not a person that internalize. I don't do good with internalizing.
Right, because you realize as a child,
because
I'm being forced to do that, and it's not,
and it don't make me feel good. So now I created a space where I could externally express myself, and I'm good with it after that. But that's why I created the space for you to be able to express, because it's never intentionally, but we do things unconsciously. And I don't want to keep doing things unconsciously on autopilot, because that's when you're in survival mode.
Right.
I don't want to parent from survival mode, because when you parenting from survival mode, you're not teaching your children anything.
Right.
All you teaching them is how to survive. You can't live from survival.
Right.
So I never wanted to be teaching you from survival mode.
Yeah. And you definitely did change that narrative by just like having like open and honest conversations. And even though I feel like, in previous episodes when we talk about like attachment styles and how like I feel like there was emotional instability, I feel like throughout the years, I feel like as you got more in your healing journey, more in your Bible, I feel like I did see a shift as far as you recognizing like, oh, the way I did that back then, that wasn't right. And like we having these conversations and you being open and honest and apologizing and just saying like, Jada, I just want to apologize for any trauma that how that may have affected you.
That I have put on to you, because you didn't ask to be here.
Right.
But I brought you into this. So it's only right for me as a parent to recognize that I created this and I brought you into this, but I'm willing to fix it.
Right.
And we as parents have to get to that place where we don't get offended when our children are telling us how the way we make them feel. We shouldn't be that prideful where we can't say sorry and mean it. We shouldn't be that prideful where we can't sit in the discomfort when we are being told, I don't like the way you made me feel.
Right.
It's many a times I have asked Jada to tell me, how am I making you feel? Has it made me feel discomfort? Yes. But I allowed her to express that because I know in my heart it was never my intentions to make my child feel that way. I was acting off of trauma that happened to me, not realizing I'm creating the same trauma.
Right.
And in order for me to know that I'm creating the same trauma, I needed her to tell me. Because that's why I will always ask you, Jada, tell me how I'm making you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not expressing nothing, I'm thinking I'm doing everything right.
Mm-hmm.
I won't know until you say something.
Right.
Stop being quiet about how the way things are making you feel. You are entitled to say how things are making you feel. As long as you're being respectful, I'm going to listen.
Right. What advice would you like give to parents as far as having that dialogue with their kids? Especially like, I feel like one thing that you have to do first is know your kid. Like for you, you knew I wasn't a boisterous child. I was very, internalizing, very quiet, very to myself. And I feel like because you went through that inner work of knowing like, okay, my mama did this to me and I didn't like that. Let me check in with my child. Like you just knew like, let me just do a check in with my child because I don't want to do the same thing that, my mama did to me, even though you unintentionally did it. But I feel like when we started to have those conversations, that's when you really started to even do even more inner work, even more like catching yourself when that happened. And even going back to the source and being like, trying to heal yourself, heal that inner child that's been hurt.
Right. But also, too, I will pay attention to how the way you are responding to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when a child is being quiet,
yeah,
that child is not just being quiet just to be quiet. Some don't like ruffling feathers. Some don't like confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
Because healthy confrontation is good.
Yeah. Because no solutions will get done if you don't have those.
Right.
Those, and like, because I feel like when people just don't, I feel like confrontation, the word itself, just have a negative connotation. But confrontation is literally just having a conversation.
It is.
It's
That's
literally
all it
just
is.
getting to the root. Literally.
Yes.
Trying to figure out, I'm feeling this way, you feeling this way. Let's talk about how we can get out these feelings, have a solution to what this problem is.
Right. And learning how to express your emotions, because even though our feelings are constantly changing, we have to get to the point where when we learn how to communicate, a lot of things could be resolved by communication.
Mm-hmm. And that's something we definitely gonna get into. Just like how everyone just communicates so differently, and again, how that's learned from what you see, what you're exposed to, and you adopt that language and you pass it on to your kid, and you still wondering why so much dysfunction is carrying on from one generation to the next. It's definitely communication. Communication is the breakdown for any relationship, not even just family,
yes,
but platonic, work relationships. Like, even if you at war, communication is the main reason a lot of countries are at war, because they're not communicating.
Mm-hmm.
And being honest and being truthful.
And it keeps you disconnected for unnecessary reasons because we lack communication.
Mm-hmm. And it keeps the trauma going, because if you're never being open and honest, not tiptoeing around things. So I feel like a lot of times we like to tiptoe around each other's feelings, but we just need to be truthful.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is gonna hurt. So
but it's gonna set you free.
Right. So take the feelings out of it and just realize, okay, this is how I'm feeling. This is, how I'm feeling. And it's not, I'm not trying to attack you in a situation, but I'm just trying to come to you with an understanding that because I'm feeling like this way, I don't want to continue to feel this way. So what is a resolution we could come to so that we could break this trauma off of us?
Right. Because you and I have those conversations, and we continue to have those conversations because we get used to doing things so much.
Mm-hmm.
But when somebody is really trying to change the way that they do things, because I know for me, I'm always asking you, Jada, how did I make you feel? Because I don't want to continue that cycle, but I know because this is a habit I've been doing for so long, I may end up doing it, but I'm not trying to purposely do it.
Right.
So I need you to call me out on it when it's being done.
And I feel like I definitely do call you out, and vice versa. I feel like we both call each other out now when we have our interactions, like, because y'all, I don't want y'all to think we perfect, because we not. We probably argue before this podcast even started, and y'all wouldn't even know. But at the end of the day, we do talk about it.
Right.
I feel like one thing my mama has taught me is just not to sit with it. But I feel like with you, you've also learned I can't go straight into it once an argument has happened.
Because
let's cool down.
We have learned each other communication styles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person that like to deal with things head on. Jada needs a minute to process.
Yeah. Because I get overstimulated really quickly. And I don't do well with yelling. I don't do well. I'm still trying to process my emotions. So I don't do well with like the negative emotions. I don't do well with confrontation. And so when I feel that, I just be a little...
You shut down.
I shut down. I check out. And so I feel like when parents really take the time to really learn their children's communication styles and how they respond to conflict or how they respond to any actions that their parents do, I think that would make the relationship between the parent and the child so much better.
Okay, break that down. How you think parents should ask their children those questions? Tell parents how they should go about doing it.
I think one, just being very observant. Well, what recently happened to either make your child go in their own silo. I feel like with you, for example, I feel like there's a lot of times you recognize my cues. Like I might be just sitting there like this, and you be like, Jada, you in your head, what's going on? Or we might be having a argument, a conversation, and then I just go cold turkey, just stop talking completely, and you like, all right, Jada, like what happened? Because we were talking about this, and you just explaining like your intention behind the conversation. I feel like a lot of times children don't understand where the parent is coming from, because a lot of times the parent is coming from, I'm the parent, I need to protect my child, but the delivery could be a little harsh, could be a little emotionally unavailable. And so I feel like really coming in from a perspective of do a temperature check on how your child is feeling, and recognizing and just acknowledging, like, I realized like after this conversation you kind of checked out, or like you kind of shut down. What happened? Where did this go wrong? And what are your thoughts on this right now? And I think doing that temperature check just really helps you get a sense of what is your child thinking and feeling. How did they interpret whatever was communicated to them, in order to better understand each other, and then be able to continue a conversation with that understanding of, this is how my child receives these words, and this is how my child interprets these words, so that you're able to reflect on, maybe I'm speaking from a place of trauma in this moment. Mm-hmm. Maybe I need to calm down before I have certain conversations with my kid. And I feel like that's something that you have definitely learned. Like, there's a time and place, and understanding like the way that you receive information may not be the way that I receive information.
And sometimes we have to regulate our own emotions before having a conversation. That's something I had to learn.
And that's something my therapist recently taught me. Like, we literally just had a conversation about that. As far as like, getting in tune with your body, and just really regulating, centering your focus, and being calm before addressing any type of situation, any type of trauma. Like, really being able to regulate yourself, then you're able to really process the situation better,
and you could explain it better from a regulated space,
right? And that's really what I feel like a lot of the trauma stems from, is this dysregulation, this dysfunction and dysregulation. Because a lot of parents, really are operating as little kids, mm-hmm. that do not know how to control their emotions, and not knowing the timing and the place. Is like, a lot of people are just reacting off emotions, period. They're angry, and so the next situation happens in life, they're still feeding off of that resentment, that anger that they haven't really processed. They haven't acknowledged. They haven't taken the time to really unpack, why am I feeling like this? What thoughts and behaviors happen?
And they don't even know what emotion they are feeling.
Exactly.
Because that was part of my problem.
Yeah.
I didn't know what emotion I was feeling. I just know I needed to get it out.
Yeah. And for me, I didn't know what emotion I was feeling, but I needed to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And for an outsider looking at it, it could be just like, oh, she just shutting down. No, I'm trying to process. Because I feel like within our household, I feel like I wasn't really given that space to process, because you were so quick to be like, tell me what's going on. Like, you want to get to the root of it.
Wanted to get to the root of it.
And for me, it's just like, I don't even know what just happened just now. Like, right. I just went from feeling like this the best day ever to feeling like, what did I do wrong?
And then I take things from 0 to 100 real fast.
And I'm just sitting there like, girl, how we even
get here?
And that literally be my response to you. And you be like, Jada, because you just don't be listening. It's like, it's not bad. It's just, I'm confusion. How we get here? For real. Like, I'm legit trying to understand that. Like, how did we get here? Like, y'all, when I say I be so dumbfounded, I just be like...
But I think I have gotten better with it.
You definitely have gotten better. But I feel like it's gotten better because I feel like with age as well, and with, studying the word and really praying over getting my thoughts, emotions, and behaviors aligned, I feel like that has been helpful. But I feel like as a kid, I was thrown for a loop. I felt like I was doing mental gymnastics. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just a girl. I'm just a kid. I'm just a kid trying to get these scholarships.
And I'm very sorry, but that just goes to show you I was functioning from dysregulation.
Yeah.
I could not process my own emotions, and it made me feel better to get it out and put it on to somebody else than for me having to sit with it because I would explode.
And sometimes I would feel like I would be like a trauma bank. And I'd be like...
And it wasn't intentional.
Yeah. Right. No, it wasn't.
The only person in the household.
But that's why I feel like my internalization came from the fact of... I feel like me and you are the same in the fact that we're both like like we want the solutions. We just different in the sense of you don't have to think about it. I feel like you just have an idea and you go with it. Me, I sit with it. I internalize it. And that's because you don't internalize. And so for me, it could come off as Jada she don't care. But it's like, no, I'm trying to think of all the different possibilities of how this could.
Because I always thought you was nonchalant. Like, you ignored me until you and I had that conversation to realize that you process different from me.
Yeah.
And that you need to sit with it. And it's okay that you sit with it. And I had to learn that everybody do not think like me. Everybody is not going to process information the way that I process it. And I do believe the way that I process information is because of my childhood. I always had to figure things out on my own. So because I wanted a solution like that, I trained my brain to think like that.
Right.
Like I come up with solutions like that. And I don't like to dwell on the problem.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, it's not even just dwelling on the problem. It's more, and I think it just was rooted in like my perfectionism that I am addressing still. Just trying to figure out like, okay, if we go this route, what problems could run? What problems could we possibly run into? What are some bumps, challenges, and trying to think of a backup solution. I'm always trying to think of backups. Like I don't just want solution after solution. I want a solution, but I want 3 backups for that one solution, and so forth. I feel like that's just how I just process things. Like you could say that with work. Like I'm gonna give this draft to this, but I'm also gonna have a backup draft. So in case that draft don't work out, I've already have other solutions. So we not constantly going back and forth. The same thing with like family things. Like sometimes I feel like you will vent to me about things, and I'll be trying to think of like so many different responses to give you from thinking of just from different angles. But then having to understand, me and you having that understanding, like just asking like, are you venting or do you need advice? Because sometimes I get it more in my head when just like, mama just need a vent. Just let her get it off her chest. Whereas with me, I feel like if I'm venting because I really want a solution, but I don't voice that. But I feel like with that understanding, like I said, understanding who we are and what we need, I feel like that has definitely helped our family dynamic a lot and kept us from re-traumatizing each other because we're understanding where these behaviors are coming from, but we're also keeping each other accountable. Like, mom, like, I don't do well with all that yelling and stuff. And if you do that, you're going to trigger me to shut down and internalize.
Right.
And then we're going to be back in that same
cycle,
that same negative cycle.
Right.
And so I feel like just understanding each other has definitely shaped our family dynamic over the years tremendously. Especially once we started getting in our word. Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that has helped us to realize we're not the first to go through this. Because I know it isn't when we started reading the Bible together, it was funny how we would come and have conversations about the Bible. And we were like, oh, the Bible be having drama.
Yes.
Real drama.
Drama. The amount of times in the Old Testament, God was just like,
I'm sick of y'all.
I keep giving y'all these commandments to obey. But y'all steady want to do what y'all want to do. So now I got to do what I got to do. Because y'all don't want to do what I said y'all should be doing. And I'd be like, read my Bible like, damn. And looking at my life like, is this story about me? Yes. Yes. Because he's sending me a lesson to learn a lesson. So I want to repeat what the consequences were that they learn. Because child, the tribe of Judah. Child, the 12 tribes in general. Jesus. Peace be still. But all that to say. So just switching the topic a little bit. Do you think like a lot of parents who are unhealed are still parenting from those unhealed wounds?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Are you still parenting from any unhealed wounds? Like unknowingly? Like
only you would know that. Do you think I still parent from unhealed wounds?
No.
I'm not gonna say.
I'm saying like recently. Like, do you think you've done the work as far as really addressing like, okay, these are a collection of behaviors that not only I've identified as like something that is negative and something I've learned from my family, but maybe other people have told me constantly about, and I'm like, let me reflect. Where is this coming from?
Well, I've always listened when people tell me things about me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have taken it that I can't take corrective criticism. I don't feel that way. Do you feel like I don't know?
Sometimes. And I don't know what it is. I feel like me and you, we constantly do have those arguments of like, I feel like we both be feeling like we both don't want nobody to tell us nothing. We both know it all. I feel like that's something we both said to each other. That's how I feel.
And I don't ever want to come from a place where I know it all. But when I have a huge knowledge about something, see, let me address that. People think that I'm a person that don't want to hear corrective criticism. But when you come to me with the corrective criticism, I'm listening. But if you can't back it up to make me understand, then it seems like I don't want to hear what you have to say. Right. And it's not that I don't want to hear what you have to say. You not backing it up to make me understand.
And that's exactly how I feel the same. That's exactly my thought process. That's why I be saying like we really are one and the same. We just have certain some things are just like polar opposites. But we talked about this yesterday. Like a lot of our end goals are the same. Now, are there certain things that we do differently? There's like why she did that. Yes, of course. But back to like the overarching thing, we're just trying to figure out why we do the things that we do. But sometimes it's not even, I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in why do we do the things that we do to just not understanding like, what can I do to make this person not do these things? Like what needs to happen for us to, I guess, come to a compromise? Because I feel like we're not going to be the same person in the same body.
And I don't want to,
right.
God didn't create us to be the same person.
Right.
But I think the disconnect is because we speak in different languages. Yeah. And so to somebody else, it may seem that I can't accept corrective criticism. It's not that I can't accept corrective criticism. If you don't seem competent in what you're trying to tell me, I have a tendency to just shut it off because you're not making sense to me. You see what I'm saying? And maybe that's a bad flaw of me.
I feel like, no, because I feel like we do the same thing. Is the way in which we do it is different. Meaning, you shut people off for being with your words. I shut people off by just not saying nothing. Like you shut people off by saying like that don't make sense. Like just saying, basically explaining like your logic is not adding up to me, and because it's not adding up to me, I'm choosing not to engage. Me, I literally just stop engaging completely in the conversation. Like I literally shut down. And again, my internalizing behavior. That's just something that I've adapted just based out of our family dynamic of you wanting to quickly rectify something and me just being like, I can't do that. Like, right. That's not conducive for me. Yeah. So that's what I mean by like we having the same end goal as far as, okay, you give me the constructive criticism, but if you're not backing up with facts, the way in which I take that corrective criticism, that's when we differ. That's when we go two different ways.
And it might not be a good thing that I do that. I'm not saying that that's right of me to do, but for me, the person that I am, because I analyze everything, I'm an analytical person and a methodical person. I need you to again, as a child, why? And if you cannot deliver the why for me to understand it, I'm not gonna believe you. Because you're not proving the evidence that it will work.
And you know what? Now that you're saying that, I feel like that's another reason why I realize we be butting heads is because you're the type of person you want to get to the root, so you gonna keep having a back and forth. Me, when I see we at an impasse, baby, let it go. Like I just that's not something I'm starting to really realize when I look back at like conversations that we even had previously. Is like I just like basically just throw the towel in. I just be like,
and it's not an argument. It's me trying to really understand where you coming from with it.
And I guess sometimes I just be feeling like you don't be understanding. Not understanding where I'm coming from. Just like I said, how I feel like we both be having the same
end goal,
meaning like if you're gonna give me
but
constructive,
we deliver it different.
Yeah, but if you're gonna give me constructive criticism, give me the logic, give me the facts. And sometimes I feel like I be giving you the facts, but you be having your own set of facts. I'd be like, that's not we not aligned with the facts. And I feel like facts should be, the truth. It should be only one set of facts. So that's why I feel like we be butting heads is because we have two different sets of facts. Honestly, because I feel like we do come with facts. We come with some type of evidence as to why we have this argument, this statement. Because that's what a debate is you basically come in with an idea, but you having these facts, whether that's your experiences. And I feel like a lot of your facts be your lived experiences. Versus with me, it be lived experiences, but actual like data from like outside parties. And I feel like that's why sometimes I feel like the power dynamic comes into play, because it'd be like, well, Jada, I've been on this earth I don't know how long, so obviously I've experienced more. Yes, you have, but also I be understanding like because you have experienced more, we have these open dialogues to where you feed me your experience, you feed me this knowledge, where it's like because you fed me that knowledge, I haven't had to go through that experience. That doesn't mean I haven't, but I haven't had to go through the entire experience, meaning doing the behavior, doing the consequence, and trying to get out of that to get back on track is what I'm saying. So that's why I feel like we be different. You have the lived experience, but I have that knowledge that you've instilled in me to understand like, yeah, you're right. I didn't go through the consequences to know that I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't do that, but I still know that because you've instilled that knowledge within me. So just because I don't have that evidence, that lived evidence, doesn't mean I don't have the facts as well. And that's why I feel like sometimes we be differing within those conversations.
Understandable.
Yeah. But again, I feel like, y'all, over the years, I could honestly say our conversations, our triggers have gone down because we've come to understand each other and we worked on our communication. Yesterday, we was literally talking about, maybe my intent was to do this, but it impacted you differently. Like it didn't land the way I thought it was going to land. Mm-hmm. And us being able to have that conversation and just being able to apologize to each other. Like, I'm sorry that didn't land how I wanted it to land, but this is what I really meant. And also even unveiling, like, this is how I felt. So that's how that came off, but this is what I really meant. And I apologize for that.
And then I have also learned to not keep going on and on and on and on when you have already shut down. It just makes sense to just let it die.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing we'll come back to disagree or to
mm-hmm.
agree, but we could still be in a healthy space.
Right.
Where we haven't both shut down
mm-hmm.
and don't want to talk.
And this literally happened yesterday.
Literally.
This literally happened yesterday. And you know what's funny? Because I met with my therapist, she gonna be proud of me when she see this. When we was having, I'm not gonna say argument, we was having a conversation about a previous argument. And we was going back and forth. We wasn't yelling, we was going back and forth. She took a pause because she realized I was checked out. Not like not listening, but I was in my ruminating, internalizing process. Took a pause. 5 minutes later, she came back, but she said, Jada, basically you just explain the intent of the conversation in mm-hmm. general. And while you was doing that, I was regulating my emotions, y'all. Because when I'm internalized, I'm trying to figure out where am I in this conversation. So I did a little technique that my therapist taught me, and it did help me censor my thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So I'm able to continue a conversation with you, not from emotions, but from, let me hear her first and respond from what I'm hearing, not from what I'm feeling.
Right.
And so I feel like after we had that conversation, we was able to continue
to flow
it
without dwelling on, oh, you made me feel this way. That's not what I was trying to say. We was able to flow like that conversation never had.
Right. And we resolved that.
Right.
And so I just love how we're able to reflect on those situations, understand who we are in order to better our family dynamic. And that's just what we want to, share with you all. Like, we're still doing that inner work as well. But through centering Christ and through nurturing our body, mind, and soul, because that's what I did during that argument. I literally prayed, centered my body, and dived back into the conversation. And she also acknowledged, Jada's checked out. Let me pause. Let me not keep going. And then once I feel like we're in a good place, let me bring it back up, because we don't want nothing to build up from that. No resentment, no love lost. But it's just like, we acknowledge it literally was a communication issue.
Right.
And we constantly acknowledge, like, where we differ is communication, and just getting to a place where we have a communication style that we're on the same page.
Right. And it's okay to have different communication styles. But the problem coming is when you're not trying to understand the other person. And I think we make it a point to try to understand each other now.
Right.
Like, we could communicate different, but when we know that the communication is off, we try to now understand where the communication is off and then fix it.
Right.
And that's where I think we have gotten better.
Yeah.
Instead of just getting upset and be like, well, I'm not being heard, and just making up stuff that ain't even there. We take the time to pause so it doesn't escalate to something, and then we like, well, what we was arguing about.
Right. Yeah. So I definitely do love that about our relationship. And again, back to you, just like understanding your child and understanding what I need and vice versa. That has bettered our relationship.
So what childhood trauma you think I still haven't resolved?
I feel like we talked about that, like, with your dad. I feel like that's something we recently talked about. I feel like it really was just like your parent wounds, to be honest. Like, that's really, because your parent wounds do influence the troubles that you've had in, like, friendships and relationships. And I feel like those are your major wounds, because I do feel like when you are able to address those parental wounds, they trickle into other areas, because our models are our parents. They are our first love. Of course, God first, but right. Yes, they are our first earthly loves, as to understanding what does love look like, period. Because the same love that I show to my partner, I still show to my friends. It's just not.
It's in a platonic
way. In a platonic way, but it still is like, it's very reciprocal on both relationships. It's very do unto others what I want done to me. It's very much respect, boundaries, like those things are still, and it's based on what I have learned, but also relearned within my relationship with you, with my relationship with my dad, with my relationship with my grandma and my aunt, like those core relationships. Because I don't have siblings, so one of the things that I struggle with was sharing, and I feel like that's something that you learn with siblings.
You have siblings, you just don't have living
right,
household
right. So, like, there's certain behaviors that I just, because that wasn't something that was taught, that wasn't something that I was learning. But as with you, like, I'm sure there were things that you witnessed in the household that impacted you, but I can't think of anything. Because I feel like that's something that you would know. I don't feel like that's something I would know. Because I feel like in your everyday life, you will run into either these behaviors that you're doing where you're like, like the behaviors that I'm doing and how I'm doing them in the world is coming back to me in a negative way, meaning like something is wrong here. Like something is not aligning. And so I feel like that's something for you to like not internalize, but be introspective and looking inward and being like.
Well, I just asked that because I thought you may have picked up on something that you may think I still need to work on. That's why I asked that. But I know I have been purposely, intentionally working on all trauma.
Yeah, no, I think everything connects, because even like your communication style, that stems from your parents. Not a mother wound per se, but it stems from, because grandma grew up in a household where it was very like hush hush, very much do as I say, not as I do. She had that same same parenting style, meaning like don't question what I say, and like because God was her foundation, that's all she could really offer you. Like you could consult with God though, but don't question anything that I say, you know. But if you need further, you know, exposure to something, because also grandma didn't have exposure to a lot of things that you were exposed to, so she really didn't have that experience to really share with you, and so that's where that disconnect came through. And so feeling like,
and that's what made me mad.
Yeah, feeling like I can't connect with my mother. She's not giving me what I need, and because y'all don't have that communication, y'all can't even communicate the needs.
Right.
So yeah. So I'm saying like I feel like all your wounds connect to that family dynamic in which you learn certain things, or maybe you didn't like certain things that they did, but you still took on these unhealthy behaviors.
And now that you put it to that perspective, now I could honestly say I could really let it go, because I can't be mad at something that wasn't taught. And the perspective that you just gave, I never heard it that way. That mom only knew to go to God because that was the relationship she developed. She knows she couldn't go to her parents, so she could only give to me what she was able to give to herself.
Right.
And I couldn't understand. I'm like, how you want me to go talk to God and I can't even talk to you?
Because that was her saving grace. That's
right,
what
but
she knew.
I didn't understand that as a child.
Right. And but also because grandma didn't have the capacity to communicate that.
Right.
And like I said, y'all didn't have the communication window, dialogue, even open period, to understand, like, for grandma to be like, April, this is how I know best to communicate these different things that you're going to go through with life. Like, I may not be able to give you the earthly knowledge and experience, but consult with God, because that's how I've been going through life.
Right.
And I feel like you would have been more understanding. Like, she's not trying to not give me what I need.
Right.
She doesn't know how to give me what I need.
Right.
And so being able to have that dialogue period, I think that would have saved a lot of face. But because y'all were both grandma was dealing with her own traumas. Right. She was only to be able to give what she was able to give, but without telling you why and in what manner.
Right. So, Mom, I would like to say that I'm very, very, very sorry for giving you such a hard time and making it seem like you were the problem when it was just, you just couldn't give me what you didn't have. So I publicly apologize to you. I want to say that I'm very, very sorry. And now that I understand, since Jada broke it down like this, I'm in a better place with it. It makes a whole lot of sense. Like I said, what I told you, I need
know why.
to know why.
Yeah. And I feel like that has been our saving grace with our relationship. It's just me being able to sit, like, a lot of my internalizing is doing stuff like this, like really just sitting like this person, like, people really are not trying to hurt people intentionally. That's not people's intent. But hurt people are going to hurt people because hurt people don't really have anything to give.
Right.
You really are just trying to take what you haven't been given. And so you're bound to be in a cycle where, like, hurt people are hurting people. But me, I'm just saying, like, people not just doing this.
And I never felt that people are purposely doing it.
But it's still like the why.
Right.
And I feel like for me, my why is understanding that people just, they can't give what they don't have, what they never had to begin with.
Right.
And just understanding, like, there's something I'm not getting here that makes more sense than what I could physically see, what I could physically interpret, or what I could understand based on my lived experience. And I feel like that same thing could even said, like, with my dad. Like, that's been our saving grace with our relationship. Like, I'm keeping him accountable and understanding, like, there are some things that I don't like that you do, or some things that you say, but because I understand the root,
I gave you the root.
Yeah. And because we've also had these conversations, like, because I understand the root to why you do the things that you do, I know you're not intentionally trying to hurt me, but that's when boundaries come into play. Like we talked about in previous episodes. Like, at the end of the day, I can understand what you're saying, but I'm still gonna put a boundary so I'm not re-traumatizing myself. I gotta protect myself at the end of the day. And so,
right,
yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah,
but I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah.
Another breakthrough.
Yes. And that's what we want in this podcast, is just really understanding, like, how these family dynamics have really come to shape our identity and how we come to understand the world. Because, our first heartbreaks, those do hurt, And sometimes when you're operating off those emotions, you go on hurting other people because you're not taking a minute to really think like, why am I feeling like this?
And that's why I keep people at arm's distance.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have gotten better with that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why. It was because of my relationship with my parents.
Right. But it's a beautiful thing when you're able to get down to the root and have these breakthroughs like we have. Just like talk, like literally, I feel like talking it out is really like the healing.
Yes.
Because you're able to, and when you have that ability to understand how that person's communication style works, I think that's also when a lot of understanding and clarity comes in. Because I feel like when people are communicating, people could be very defensive instead of just having a conversation just to listen.
Yes.
Like, let's listen first, and let's maybe repeat back what we heard to make sure we actually heard what the person said and not what we interpreted what the person said. Because a lot of times we are mixing up people's words. So now we're going to segue into our game for today, and it's called God Said It or Family Taught It. And so each of us are going to pull a scenario, read it, and guess whether that's something God would say or it's something that we learn from our family dynamics. So I'll go first. All right, so God said it or family taught it. I can love my family and still need space from them.
God taught it.
Mm-hmm. Love doesn't require constant access. Even Jesus stepped away to rest and reset.
God said it or family taught it. My past family dynamics don't have to define my future.
God said it.
I am a new creation. I can break cycles and choose differently.
Mm-hmm. Breaking them generational cycles. Okay. The next one says, God said it or family taught it. If I don't keep the peace, everything will fall apart.
Family taught.
You're not responsible for holding everything together. God is. My peace doesn't come from managing people.
God said it or family taught it. Setting boundaries means I'm being disrespectful.
Wait, go back. What is it?
Setting boundaries means I'm being disrespectful.
Family taught it.
Boundaries are not disrespect. They are wisdom. I can honor others without dishonoring myself.
Yeah, and they're definitely a form of protection as well. God said it or family taught it. It's better to stay quiet than disrupt the family dynamic.
Family taught it.
Mm-hmm. God doesn't call us to false peace. He calls us to the truth with wisdom.
Because the truth
will set you free. Amen.
God said it or family taught it. This is just how my family is. It's never going to change.
Oh no, family taught that.
The mindset can come from giving up. The mindset can come from growing up in patterns that felt permanent, where dysfunction became normalized. It protects you from disappointment, but it can also keep you stuck.
And so we hope that this game was really helpful in discerning what are some things that have occurred in your own family dynamic that have been either taught by your family or that through studying the word and understanding like what a healthy family dynamic looks like, God has ordained to be true. And so really reflecting this week on what are some family, dynamics that you really want to break or like heal from so that you don't pass it on to, your next generation or your child and your grandchild. So that's something that, a little homework for you all to really think about. So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode of The Art of Navigating Family Dynamics and, really thinking through what constitutes a healthy family. Like what is really needed to really raise a child in a healthy household. And also looking back in your Bible and really reflecting on what God says about family and what's really needed to create that loving dynamic that is filled with peace and not chaos. Because
remember in Genesis, God told Abraham to leave his father's house.
Hello. So really reflect on, your own family dynamic and what are some areas that need some some work, some healing. So that is today's episode. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to our channel here at the MendHer podcast, and also like, share, and comment on this video. Please share with anyone that you think could really, be interested and need to hear more about, what God says about family, and maybe some areas in their own family that needs to be healed. And also follow us on all our social media platforms. That is at the MendHer podcast. That's on TikTok, Instagram, and also our Substack. And also follow us on all listening platforms. So that's Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.